Greetings, pilgrims, and thanks for joining us on the bus today for our first tour of 2023 of Innsmouth. As you can see, we've brought you straight into the town square. Do take care as you come down the steps off the bus there. And if you'd like to congregate just outside the Gilman House, we'll be popping in there in a moment to speak to today's guest. I'm one of your guides, Rob Poyton.
And I'm the other one, Tim Mendes. Yeah, as you can see, Innsmouth it's looking a bit different than last time, isn't it? All the lights are smashed and hanging down from the wires, and yeah.
I see a few forms slumped in alleyways, probably left over from the festival. The Hounds of Tindalos are out as well. I don't know if you can hear them in the background.
Oh yeah, I think they're cleaning up after the ghouls in the graveyard. They had a right rave up in there the other night. It was like that scene from Return of the Living Dead. You know, there's a ghoul party on the gravestones. You know, so there's all kinds of meat lying around, but I don't want to think too much about that.
They'll be probably going down the kebab shop later on then, won't it? That's...
The Innsmouth kebab shop, yeah.
Now, before we do go in, we've just got one news item. Well, it's kind of a news item about something that's going to be happening, probably. We've spoken about it last year, about putting on events this year, and we've started making plans for something called the Innsmouth Literary Festival, which is going to be a one-day sort of convention. We're looking at Bedford at the moment, a venue in Bedford, and we're going to be having stalls. We're going to be asking some people along, and so on and so on. It's very early planning stages at the moment, so we will be getting more details out as and when we work them out. But we're looking sort of second half of September, wasn't it, Tim? I think we were going to.
Yeah, sort of late September, before October, that kind of thing. So you don't want to get stuck in the scrum, the Halloween scrum, do you? And I think that'd be a good time of year to do it, really. Because it's after the summer holidays, and it's before everybody is permanently skint because of Christmas. So
yeah, more details as and when. Okay, shall we go into the Gilman House and tread the steps up to room 428?
Indeed.
So here we are, room 428. Let's knock on the door. It's Mr. Greg Johnson. Hey, Greg, how you doing?
Hello. Come on in. Have a seat. Well, I'll sit on the bed. You can stand.
I'll perch on the little tall boy next to the trouser press. It gives you a good escape route.
Yeah. I've attached a lock, so we should be fine.
Excellent.
Oh, look at that! A man who's prepared. He's brought his own bolt.
Pocket screwdriver.
Yeah. I'll take it then from that perhaps you've been to Innsmouth before.
Yeah. A mate of mine for a stag do. It was none of us have any memory of it, but we all got a tattoo. Yeah, we're glad. I did some hypno regression and decided to leave that door closed. So we choose to believe we had a great time.
Some things are best not remembered.
Yeah.
You don't want to get chained to the railings in Innsmouth, do you? You really like.
Yeah, the tide coming in is the least of your worries.
Yeah.
Odd choice. Very cheap though.
Yes. Well, yeah.
I think that's the main reason.
Yeah.
Very cheap Airbnb.
Innsmouth is always out of season, so you know.
Yeah, there is no season.
You always get a good deal. One or two of your party might go missing, but you know it's a small price to pay for a good stag do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the kind of seaside I like. Being a sort of northern Brit, you know, I like the kind of brown sea, grey sky.
Yeah, same.
Kind of salty wind that blasts your hair back. That sort of Scarborough, Whitby kind of vibe. That's the seaside to me. I don't know about the Bahamas or any of that.
I'm the same because I'm the opposite side at Pennines, but yeah, it's exactly the same.
Yeah, you just go there for like a blast of ozone and brown water.
Brown water, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you think there's something in that, the kind of Innsmouth and the British psyche, and that is, I mean, we all had childhood holidays like that, didn't we? Of sitting, buttoning up your cardigan on the beach and fighting seagulls for chips and all that kind of stuff. Decayed splendour.
Yeah, sandwiches with sand in, and I think there's something about this sort of the Anglophile American, because there can't be many American seaside towns that are like Innsmouth.
No.
Can there? But we've got
Yeah,
we've got
pretty
tons
much
of them.
all of them.
Just go up and down the East Coast sometimes,
Yeah.
or even down south, isn't it? That's
Yeah. A lot of them down here. There's
Yeah.
one just down the coast from me, a little place called Rottingdean. It's like the place that time forgot.
Yeah, with the word rotting in its name. Almost
Yeah, it's like
cruel.
every time I go down there, it's like this could be Innsmouth. This really could be Innsmouth.
Yeah. Or even Blackpool. That's all, lights but it's called Blackpool.
it's a sinister name.
We used to go there when I was a kid. I always think of a tray of chips with a footprint in it. That's
Yeah.
Blackpool. Just trodden on chips.
Yeah, been there many
Yeah.
times. Being from
Happy days.
Macclesfield,
Mm.
that was like Blackpool and Southport were the holiday destinations. Like for me,
Yeah.
or if you really wanted to push the boat out, you could go to Rill.
Real. Wow.
I've never been to Real. Is Real real? Is Real a real place?
I'm not sure.
It's unreal. The door of the unreal. I just think of Real as that episode of Red Dwarf where the script said a beach in paradise and they had to go and film in Real.
Yes,
So it doesn't really make any better than life.
Better than
doesn't it?
life.
It's,
Yes.
doesn't really make any sort of narrative sense. Like why are we imagining we're in Real? It just doesn't. You can't go to Hawaii. Just don't do that.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. Yeah, great.
So you've got a huge amount of work out there. Great. I mean, and you're actor, writer, musician, producer, stuff. So, but I thought maybe we could just start with a little bit about your background and specifically how you got into Lovecraft and weird fiction.
Yeah, I was thinking this. 'Cause I knew you'd ask. I can't quite remember. I'm not a gamer, so it wasn't Call of Cthulhu or any of that.
Yeah.
I do now own. Is it Arkham Horror? I find board games like mind-numbing, like ear-bleedingly complicated. Like I cannot learn the rules of things, so that's a complicated one. But it looks good. But yeah, so I think I was always into sort of weird fiction, and I love William Burroughs, and I kind of like Edgar Allan Poe and period, like Sherlock Holmes, and
Yeah.
So I think it will have been a compilation, stories of horror and the supernatural. Big, thick sort of I bought from the works, those kind of $2.99
I know the ones.
size of a dictionary, and that will have had a Lovecraft in it.
Yeah.
And I think that word, and I heard things being described as Lovecraftian, and you hear about this thing called Cthulhu, and I'm quite into sort of tentacles, tentacly monsters, and
Nice.
kind of the thing, and a lot of practical effects in Lovecraft stories. I like to think a lot of rubber and slime, and then maybe watched Reanimator but I was sort of aware of this term Lovecraftian, and then I think my intro to it was the H.P. Lovecraft Literary Podcast.
Ah, right,
Nice.
yes.
So I've heard Chris Lackey and Chad Pfeiffer describe a lot more of the stories than I've actually read, which is my shameful admission I knew I'd have to make. Because they always assume, obviously, we've all read them. I'm like, yeah.
Of course,
Big time. Nothing more fun than wading through these paragraphs. But it being read to me and the ideas and I think I heard this idea of Lovecraft and Cthulhu and just got onto that. I think I just put the word Lovecraft into podcasts, and that was my intro.
Yeah, they were one of the first ones, I think. We had Chris on it a couple of months back.
Did.
And it was, it was something I was listening to from quite early on. In late night drives back from gigs and all that sort of stuff. Perfect listening, And I think it gave me a new appreciation because you kind of read the stuff and play. I played a little bit of the role playing games and all that. But when you hear people go into the themes and the background, it kind of increases the horror to me. They talk about things you're not thought about, perhaps.
Yeah, sort of learning that appreciation. I remember at school, I did English literature and kind of reading the first page of like Mansfield Park by Jane Austen or W.B. Yeats, sort of Irish poems, and just thinking, oh God, I don't want to read this. But actually, if someone makes you study it and tells you what it's all about and what things symbolize, and you do actually learn to think, oh, this is great. So I think hearing people talk about stuff is fascinating. And that podcast has been my education since they ran out of Lovecraft. That's sort of been my whole education of Robert Aikman and E.F. Benson and just other people whose names I can't remember, but just so many.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant shorts.
I've never actually read any Aikman before. I think they had, was it Reece Shearsmith on a little while back talking?
No, they had Jeremy Dyson.
Jeremy Dyson,
which was my idea.
Oh, nice. Nice.
because I see him around, so I know he's local. For two reasons. My wife does comics, so I've seen him at Thought Bubble Comic Con a few times in Leeds.
Yeah.
And also I know that he lives in Ilkley because my brother does, and my brother's dog ran into Jeremy Dyson's house.
That sounds like the name of a song.
Yeah, it's like country, isn't it? Yeah.
That's the start of a dark League Gentleman-esque story.
Yeah.
We never got out again. So I even know where he lives. We've got a nice house. That's a weird threat.
That's why I'm laughing. I was like, oh,
yeah,
climbing up the lamppost, peering through the windows.
Yeah, but I think I tweeted at Jeremy Dyson saying, what 3 or 4 Aikman stories would you recommend? And then when he replied, I went to Chris Laggy, who's now my best buddy, and said, I tell you who you should get on, Jeremy Dyson.
Yeah.
So there you go. And now they're mates too. So it's a big love-in, a big literary
networking.
Love-in.
Yeah, definitely.
So how did you get to be pals with Chris? I mean, because obviously he moved over to the UK. So is he quite a sort of near neighbour to you?
Fairly near, yeah. They're about sort of 40 minutes drive. We're in Leeds and they're in Keighley. I think I sort of realized when I first started listening to it, I think he'd already moved, but I thought it was 2 guys in LA. And then it turns out that my fandom started about 2 weeks after they did their live podcast that they recorded at Travelling Man in Leeds City Centre, and I just missed it. And Chad was over, I think, and maybe Andrew Lehman was here as well. But I thought there were 2 guys in LA, and I knew about Chris from, oh man, this is so dorky, but the DVD extras of Whisperer in Darkness. Because I got into the Historical Society as well, which I really like. I love that film. I think it's great.
Yeah, it is.
And they interviewed Chris, and he sort of green screened, and they talked about him being in England. So the backgrounds behind him are all like Big Ben and fish and chips and stuff. And I think maybe he just mentioned on the podcast, "Oh, I'm in Yorkshire." So I messaged him to say I'm a filmmaking guy. So if you ever need want to do any video content, or you need an animator, or not knowing he is an animator,
right?
Then we could meet up sometime. And he said, being the sort of enthusiastic American guy that he is, he said, let's have a drink tomorrow.
Nice. Yeah.
So the next day we met halfway between, which is a Saltaire, which is kind of been halfway between our 2 houses. And we're sort of buddies ever since. And 3 weeks later, he was a guest at my wedding.
Ah, lovely.
Nice.
Lovely.
The newest friend there. But yeah, we became really good buddies and sort of egged each other on. And we've done short films together and narrative audio stuff and all sorts.
Yeah, well, that was the next thing I wanted to talk about, because you've got the 3 Lovecraft shorts plus the 2 Quiet and Bold.
Quiet and Bold, yeah.
Bold episodes. And I have to say, I mean, we reference those 3 films quite a lot here.
Yes, we do.
And
I always end up breaking out so what are you wearing?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think in some ways there's some of the finest Lovecraft adaptations out there. I mean, you just capture it. Obviously, the humour is a big thing, but I mean, how did they come about, and what was the process of making them like?
I can't quite remember. The first one is very simple, because it's a phone call shot against a black sheet in my bedroom. And then I sort of photoshopped myself into this graveyard, and but yeah, I think I just said let's do some Lovecraftian shorts. I remember pitching the Pickman one. Pickman's guest ended up being to Chris in Providence, because we sort of wanted to complete the trilogy and describing the idea to him, and he's always laughed a lot at the ideas, so that was really nice. But yeah, it's sort of a combination of, I think with Lovecraft, if you love him, you can also laugh at him. And I'm not sure why. There's something extreme or slightly over the top about it. So the like when we did From Beyond, what's it called? From Beyond the Beyond is ours. And making it was actually a puppet of like a skull with a sort of worm thing on it, and filming all that against black. And
I wanted to ask you about that, whether that was a physical thing.
Yeah, it's a polystyrene skull, and then the spine is made out of one of those things that you tie the cables with under a desk. And I have like black socks on my hands and just sort of puppeted it like that. Really good fun. And I made the resonator prop, and So we sort of made it as lovingly and accurately as we could, filmed in this amazing set, which has since burnt down tragically. But it was left over from a gunpowder plot show with Kit Harington in, and the Limehouse Golem had just filmed there with Bill Nighy. So all these sets were in this mill right near Chris's house.
Nice.
And we knew someone who was a friend of the security guard, so he let us in. They shouldn't have done, really. But recently, the whole mill burnt basically to the ground. So that was really, really sad. But yeah, so we had these fancy sets that were just free because we could have snuck onto them. And so we sort of tried to make them as well as we could. But then they're also funny. So, because a few people have said, oh, you should do straight adaptations. Why don't you just make a straight Lovecraft short film? And I'm a bit less interested in that, maybe. But there's one I'd like to adapt. I mean, I'd love to tackle The Temple, but
nice.
as a feature, that's a bit of a dream project.
That's quite a great. Yeah, be difficult to put humour into that one.
Yeah, that one's not. That's sort of The Lighthouse meets Das Boot.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
kind of a descent into just blackness.
There's a lot of insanity going on there, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be a sort of psychological horror film. Event Horizon meets Das Boot meets The Lighthouse.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd love to do that one.
But do you not think, or something we talk about a lot, is there's a lot more humour in Lovecraft than Lovecraft is given credit for?
Oh yeah.
And because we research what's happening between Lovecraft and Smith and all the letters and everything, the names they give each other and the addresses they use. They're having a laugh.
Yeah.
In the best possible way.
Some of the insults they have for editors and things like that I find the best. Some of the most creative insults this side of Shakespeare.
Very, very sort of catty. It's a similar thing for me with William Burroughs. When I sort of had a go at reading Naked Lunch because I'd heard it was a big deal, and you should read it. When I was maybe 15 or 16, and just couldn't make head nor tail. I thought it was like you can read it in any order, and it's just a collection of almost sketches, really.
Yeah. But
then it wasn't until I heard him read them to an audience, I got a lot of his live readings, and you realize, oh, there's big laughs in here. This is satirical, and he's satirizing all these doctors and psychiatrists and policemen and all these authority figures that he doesn't like. And I think, with Lovecraft, it's sort of, it's maybe not quite as Poe-faced, or Poe, not quite as Poe pastiche either, as you might think. Some of them are a bit heavy, but yes, I think they sort of know what they're doing. It's like reading Gormenghast or something. You think this person knows how heavy their language is, and they're like, well, so what? Yeah, that's how I want to write. I think Angela Carter. I saw an interview with Angela Carter, and she said, yeah, I know I write purple prose, but so fucking what?
If that's your thing, that's your thing.
My style is overwriting, tough, and I know it is. So I'm well aware of what my style is.
I'm the same there. I've been accused of that before. It's a bit overwritten. Yeah, that's how I write. Take it or leave it.
That's my choice.
Kind of yeah.
The sort of prog rock of the literary world kind of thing.
Yes, the Rick Wakeman.
We're going to have 5 time signatures in the first half of the song, So,
and I'm going to play the keyboard with a paint roller.
Now I approve of that. Having played the hammer with the elbow before, I quite approve of that.
Yeah, something no one else has done. That's what they're trying to find, isn't it? Is something new and challenging. And
one thing when we've spoken about Pickman's model before is this idea of a picture being so horrific, it would have that wonderfully acted effect on someone, because I love all the I mean, and one thing we spoke about, do you think a picture could ever elicit that effect from someone or get that kind of response? We've talked about maybe, or photographs-ish, but a painting?
Yeah, but I mentioned this in front of Kenneth Haidt. Ken Haidt, who they sometimes have on a big Lovecraft sort of luminary, very intelligent, the most well-read guy. And I made this exact comment of like, it's a bit silly, isn't it? Like, no painting could ever. But his argument was the actual madness at the end of the story is the realization that the subject is real.
Yeah.
So the sort of insanity being induced by looking at a painting that we think of as a sort of a Lovecraftian trope He said, actually, if you read it properly, and shut me off immediately.
Nice.
Properly, the thing that drives me mad is realizing that there's a photograph of the monster. You think, well, yeah, you got a point.
Yeah, I guess so. Is that?
But I think that's one of the nice things about, if you do want to imagine it like that, it's like music of Eric Zahn, like music that would drive you insane. Or
I can believe in that. I live above, down in the courtyard from where I live is a creche, and in the summer I was in the bath and I had the windows open and I was hungover, and there was 4 different children all singing the Thomas the Tank Engine theme at different times. It was like being in hell.
Sync. Yeah, it was Thomas's face kind of multiple times in the sort of vortex of tank engines.
Yeah,
it's possible. Well, but I think like a short story, because as soon as you illustrate it or show the painting, obviously that's kind of gone. But when it's just on the page and you're imagining it, it's making me think of there's a quite funny sci-fi comedy radio show called Nebulous. He's called Professor Nebulous. And there's an episode where they discover a new color that drives people insane. And it's just that sort of, you can't, or color out of space would have been a much better reference there, wouldn't it? But yeah, it's a color you've never seen before. It's such a lovely thing to have on the page with no illustrations. It's really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like imagining music that drives you insane, imagining a color you've never seen, imagine a painting. And then as soon as you try and film it,
it goes, which is always the challenge of filming Lovecraft, and which is why perhaps apart from the Historical Society, there's not been many good actual direct Lovecraft adaptations.
Yeah. Or doing it with, I think, is it Defarber?
Yes.
German version, where is it in black and white?
Yeah.
But then the light is sort of pink.
Yeah.
So in the context of that world, this is a color they haven't seen because they're black and white people. So pink is completely from outside of their world, you know. I think that's clever.
Yeah, I thought that for me, that was sort of the best handling of it, because there's been a lot of adaptations of Color Out of Space. There's been at least 6 or 7, and I think that's the one that nailed it for me, was Defarber. So,
yeah, that's one of my favorites of all Lovecraft. I like Lovecraft quite small, you know. Call of Cthulhu is a bit sort of sprawling for me, but that kind of tragedy of thing comes from space and just kills everyone. Yeah. It's not particularly ironic or anything. It's just nice people get horribly killed.
Yeah,
and that's the story. But it's really creepy, and it's got some good scenes. It's quite achievable. It's all set around one house. You know, I can see why people make that one.
It's one of the few Lovecraft ones where he's got sort of real people in. There's an actual family, isn't there? And normally they're fainting types or people reading unspeakable things in books.
Yeah, or lots of guys on their own.
Yeah, they're just ciphers, aren't they?
Or lots of guys who have a friend that they're lots of very intense male friendships.
Yes.
Put it that way.
In tweed.
That we don't go into. Sort of guys in thrall to slightly more dominant, commanding guys who get them into some kind of dodgy stuff that they're slightly uncomfortable with, but actually they really enjoy. So it's, you know, not my place to say, but I've got a pretty strong hunch. But yeah, and then the other one is Rats in the Walls, which is about, you know, a guy who's lost his son, and that's a very rare, rarely emotional sort of plot, rather than just curious guy gets into trouble. Yeah. Which you get that line M.R. James as well, don't you? It's that sort of academic guy, often who's just on his own, and you just want to put a bit more emotion in just to sort of beef up the story. So yeah, I think those two are some of his most heartfelt.
Yeah, I'd say I'd put The Thing on the Doorstep there as well.
Yeah,
because you've actually got an actual boy-girl relationship in that one.
Yeah.
Well, kind of.
As we say, or have
you? Kind of, or have you? Yeah, well, yeah.
That was definitely on the list of ones that Chris and I could maybe adapt into a comedy.
I can see that.
The night of the honeymoon.
Oh, nice.
She's kind of busting out her pipe and thinking, this woman's just an old guy.
Yeah.
Scratching and farting.
Yeah.
Have you got plans to do any more of those? I imagine they're a lot of work, aren't they, to get them?
Yeah, just a bit. Not really. I think it's always, everything's a lot of work, isn't it? That's always the problem. Even Quiet and Bold, which is just audio, you could say but it's months of editing and writing, and So I've always sort of said, well, if we do a Kickstarter to sort of give it some impetus, and
Yeah.
but also once you've made 3 of something, that always feels kind of complete. You just think of it as completing the trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the same with any of my stuff I've done. Really, it's like on YouTube, you sort of learn the you learn the kind of the ceiling that you're going to hit of like numbers of views.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we could work for a year and make something that will get a few thousand views and then just sort of peter out. And we've had a lot of fun with it. We did readings in Providence at Necronomicon and to a live crowd and showed 3 shorts.
Oh, brilliant!
That was really fun.
Speaking of YouTube channel, you got a huge amount of stuff on there. I don't know. Well, we've started with the Lovecraft, and
Yeah.
I said to Chris when we were chatting to him about your work, like, I didn't know that Woody Brown and the Lovecraft stuff was the same guy for quite a long time.
Wow.
I was saying earlier, a mate of mine sent me Woody Brown. Said, "Look, this is Pete. We've got our friend Pete who runs the studio."
Yeah.
And I was saying, it's just that's him to a T. And then later on, I kind of twigged, oh,
it's that guy.
It's slow on the uptake.
Yeah.
But how you've got to have been around studios and guys who wear shorts all year round, the long shorts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that. It was from being in a band for years, and originally he was meant to be a bit more of a sort of douchebag, like a bit more of a difficult sound guy. So kind of, well, if you want it to sound crap, it can sound crap, lads. I mean, it's no skin off my nose. I mean, oh yeah, we'll make it sound crap. Yeah. Just kind of belligerent. There always seem to be, they hate their jobs. They're really grumpy to be running the sound. They hate to be running the desk.
Totally.
And anything you ask them to do is a massive like imposition.
Yeah.
A bit like it's like the IT guy in The Office, played by Matt Holness.
Oh yeah,
done when it's
great,
done. Right, it's done. That kind of guy who turns up and does his job so reluctantly. But then Woody turned out to be a bit nicer guy than that, actually. But
so we were sound checking at Portland Arms in Cambridge, and the guy there is quite notorious. And the drummer said, "Can I have a bit more vocal in my monitor?" And he said, "Why?" It's just like...
Thanks for making this just so easy, just as easy as it needs to be. Yeah. Why? Yeah. But then I was sort of looking also for YouTube videos to kind of pastiche, because I did a lot of sketches in one big go to kind of pitch a sketch show. This is a few years ago now. And just sort of noticed that thing of, I did another one called Unboxer, where sort of techie guy reviewing. And you realize that when someone has like an expertise, they just sound like they're talking a foreign language.
Yes. And they've often got that accent as well, haven't they?
Yeah. Yeah. So Woody was based on, there's an American guy called Dave Pensado who has a YouTube channel called Pensado's Place. And they're always like, okay, so we're just going to start absolute basics, in layman's terms, for beginners. I've got a 404 running through a quad, and they just go straight into like, no idea what you're talking about. So I don't really have the technical knowledge to do Woody. That's the only problem, is I don't actually know what he's talking about, because I use like GarageBand. So yeah. But it's that thing when someone is talking. It's like listening to my brothers-in-law talk about computer games, or like a mechanic talk about a car. You'd think I have no idea what this is, and I love all that kind of gobbledygook nonsense talk. I love that.
I was just saying, I think there's something faintly ridiculous about the unboxing thing. Anyway, it's just there's something comedic about it. Somebody going, "Here's a box. Let's open the box."
Yeah.
But the best one I ever saw was a guy I know. He's a paranormal investigator, and he bought some new kit. I think it was a new spirit box or something, which was essentially a broken radio. And he did a live stream on YouTube. And me and another one of our friends had both gone on anonymously to troll him, right? And partway through the stream, he couldn't get in the box, so he got a lock knife out, and he ended up stabbing himself in the thigh live on YouTube.
Yeah. Beyond parody, that's the problem.
Exactly.
I was looking for videos to parody and do funny satires of, and I found an unboxing video of a woman unboxing a wig. And it had something like 70,000 views, and I just got very depressed. I thought, I don't understand this world.
70,000,
and I'll sort of claw my way up to 700 doing a parody of this thing. And you think, why is this popular? I just don't understand what I'm looking at. But yeah,
we were speaking about this before. We were the TikTok thing and everything, and like a 10-second video of someone going 1.3 million views.
Yeah.
I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, we're doing something wrong. We're creating content. That's not what people want. They want to find a raw little pearl and make it their own. Accidentally becoming a meme, all that kind of thing.
Yeah. One of my publishers keeps saying I should get a TikTok. And I was like, and do what with it? And she's going, well, look at mine. And basically she goes on there and holds a book and basically points to it. And that's about it. It's just like...
That's why my career hasn't quite gone, because you get those shoulds. So I'll have meetings maybe with my agent or something, and they'll put me in a room with the sort of social media manager, who was a lovely guy. And I did some of it. We said, oh, you should make square versions of some of your existing sketches, put subtitles on them, and put them on Instagram. And that kind of worked, and I didn't mind doing that. And, it's fine. And I'm a great believer in making things 2 minutes and 20 or shorter, so you can put them on Twitter and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, as soon as someone said, you really should be on TikTok, that should kind of rubs me up the wrong way. Yeah. So in my head, the sort of perverse, don't want success version of my brain is like, right, not doing that then.
Yeah.
And you're always too late. I remember having a huge list of really good ideas for Vines, and then Vine disappeared. Right, now's the time. I've got 100 good ideas for Vines. Here we go. So I'm not exactly an early adopter.
I'm with you on that. I mean, I was nagged for ages to get onto Twitter, and then when I did, I immediately got 500 requests or whatever. Oh, this is good, but all from other writers.
Yeah.
Go, hey, look at my stuff. No, look at my stuff. It's like,
I want you to consume my stuff. It's like, no, I want you. You're my audience. I'm not yours. Yeah, no one wants us on TikTok anyway. We're old farts. It's not. You don't want to feel like you're trying. We don't belong.
Not our demographic. Not our demographic. No. One thing I would love to see with Woody Brown is a Tommy Saxondale mashup. Saxondale meets Brown. That would be awesome.
That's been noticed. Yeah. Well, he's in my partridge. I'd love that. It's fun. We talked about having him with other comedy people. Because I know a guy called Rob Maiden who plays Brett Domino, who's very funny, sort of the Brett Domino trio, who've been on 8 out of 10 Cats and stuff. But it's kind of hard. I'm not sure there's room for 2 comedy characters. I did have an idea. Right. I made a pilot called The Brown Sound that was meant to be sort of between 2 ferns, like the Zach Galifianakis talk show, but with real musical guests.
Nice.
All right.
So that's on YouTube. We got David Thomas Broughton, who's actually a very funny but quite a serious seeming alt folk musician.
Yeah.
And he came in and we sort of did a terrible version of one of his actual songs and made him eat a whole Battenberg lying on the floor and just weird studio practice stuff, rolling a dice to pick a genre. And I had him playing the shenanigan, which is the weird sort of hurdy-gurdy instrument that I made. And that was so fun. And I really wanted that to get, picked up. So we did a whole treatment for that. But it would be hard because the record labels would have to agree to, yes, our acts can come on and take the piss out of their own music, So I can see why it would be sort of legally difficult, but I'd love that. Just set up in a studio and just get a load of guests in and see what you can come up with.
Yeah, that would be good. It's probably one of those things the musicians would love to do, but the management is always like...
They tend to say rock stars are frustrated comedians and comedians are frustrated rock stars. I think that's...
I can see that, definitely.
Yeah. So I think quite a lot of them would like to come on and kind of be gently... roasted by Woody.
Yeah.
Browned. But the labels might be like, hang on a minute.
But you have done like television work and stuff as well. You mean on the Daily Mash and some other programs as well. So I mean, is that another string to your bow? Is that another thing you're looking to do?
It's paid employment.
Oh yeah,
nice.
That came about by Chris Stott, who's a producer of what was the Mash Report on BBC Two, and is now Late Night Mash on Dave, because it's a show they can't kill, which is great. He really liked my video I made called Learning to Play the Shenanigan, which is a sort of, again, based on I found a video by a German woman teaching her how to play the hurdy-gurdy, sat in a castle in that period costume. So I did this parodic version of it. And he really loved that and has been really enthusiastic about it. And he said to me, like, nothing that weird will ever get on telly, but I'd love to sort of have you included. So then for the pilot of MASH Report, I did a poem I have a sort of northern poet character
who
talks like that. Is based on Ian McMillan.
Right.
When he used to be on Mark and Lard and sort of has that amazing voice. So we just northern poet dude. And so I did a poem about Brexit. And which I don't think anyone really got. My dad certainly didn't. Anyway. Yeah. But so I did that for the pilot and did some Unboxer stuff as well.
Yeah.
And didn't really make the edit of the pilot, but I managed to sort of, because I was a big Daily Mash fan, I said, well, I'd love to be Professor Henry Brubaker, who is always the expert in every single article from the Institute for Studies. So whatever the expert is, he's in it. So they got me in as Professor Brubaker.
Nice.
And I've been doing that ever since. Hopefully we'll come. We just did one series last year with Rachel Parris as the new host, who I thought was great. Yeah. And had special guests on. So we had Asim Chowdhury and Kerry Godleyman and Stephen Mangan and Joel Dommett and all sorts of. So hopefully there'll be more. Because I thought the last series was really good. But
yeah,
so I get to go down to Pinewood for the day and be on telly.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
I suppose it's a similar thing with satire programs. It's like, how do you get satire? What's been going on over the past few years? It must be quite easy in a way, but tough in another way.
I think it's very tough to write because we have to be a lot more careful that what we're saying is true and accurate than politicians do.
Yes.
They can the reason all politicians secretly love Trump is that he threw the rule book away. Right. So now you can say anything you like, basically. And then they have to spend all afternoon like, can we say this? Can we say this?
Wow.
So it's very sort of down to the wire. And we shoot it on a Wednesday and then it goes out on Thursday night. So they edit it overnight.
Wow. Right.
But we've had moments where, as we're doing a bit, someone sort of runs in with a piece of paper because something's just changed. And that night this year, where the sort of the red wedding of the Tory party, we're kind of okay. We think she's going to resign. We're not sure. He's just resigned. Someone's crying. Someone's been pushed out of the House of Lords and said, I don't care anymore, and walked off in tears. And it was just absolute sort of bedlam. But you feel the audience get really excited.
Yeah.
And Rachel ended the show by saying good night and good luck. You kind of feel like you're in the newsroom, sort of, like we should all be there sort of smoking with our sleeves rolled up. Breaking news. I've just been handed some breaking news. You just feel the audience get really excited. But yeah, it's ideally you sort of write it basically as it's going out, because even just the fact that they edit it overnight, but by the next day they had to put on a text thing saying, as we predicted, yes, Liz Truss did in fact resign.
Wow.
Because they thought she wouldn't, because it seemed too far-fetched, Yeah, it's exciting.
It is, and I mean, one thing we sort of complained about when Trump went was the news got a bit more boring.
Yeah,
you're kind of glad it's gone, but at the same time, it was compelling view.
Yeah, I remember what Rory Bremner said about when Donald Trump got elected. He basically turned around and said, "Well, that's me out of a job." It's like, how do I satirize that? That's that's it. I'm out of a job. So
yeah. I saw Armando Iannucci on Twitter sort of saying, people are always saying to me, "Oh, now you should do more the thick of it. Now's the time for more the thick of it." And he said, "Actually, no." I think he just said, "Actually, I'm not laughing," which was sort of quite bleak. Yes. But I don't really want to make a sort of ever so slightly lovable. The incompetence of these people isn't that funny anymore. So satire is very tough, but very proud to be in one of the few shows that's like really doing it. And good old Dave for letting us actually criticize things.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and that comes back as well to another thing we talk about a lot, which is this idea of horror as entertainment. And we gleefully read all this stuff about people getting their heads pulled off by tentacles or whatever. And that line between sort of fictional horror and real horror and comedy as well, because there can be a comedic element to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, the ridiculousness. I always think about, the first thing I think of is how kids are obsessed with people having their heads chopped off.
Yes.
That kind of, I'm going to chop your head off. And it's sort of off with her head. It's that sort of, it's so extreme and absurd and almost surreal that as a kid, you can kind of understand that. Even though it just seems horrible. Or like a person being turned inside out but why that kind of darkness and discomfort entertains us. I used to be very scared of horror films when I was a kid. And anything torture-y, Texas Chainsaw or anything like that, I'm still not my bag.
Mm.
But yeah, the sort of Doctor Who's that were too scary, or werewolves, or Incredible Hulk, or people transforming into monsters and mutations and all that sort of thing. Kind of, I used to be really scared of, and now they kind of grab your imagination when you're young, don't they?
I think it gets its hooks in when you're a certain age, doesn't it? This stuff, and then you're never quite free. Yeah, didn't you do some voice stuff for Doctor Who as well?
Oh yes, I've done some. God, they take a long time to come out. Officially, I've done one, or maybe I've done 5. Who knows? Some of them 2 years ago. But yes, I'm not supposed to reveal anything. Okay, so let's say I've done one with
Big
Christopher
Finish,
Eccleston.
yeah.
With Big Finish, yeah. And that was, I mean, for all we criticize Twitter, I think Twitter's, all my careers come through contacting people on Twitter.
All right.
So I just reached out to them a few times, and I was sort of on their list of, we'll be in touch in the new year. And because it turned out their producer was a fan of MASH Report at the time. So it's like, yeah, we'll get you in. That'd be great. But then it never quite happened. But I asked my agent to contact them instead on my behalf, and they offered me a role like a week later.
Nice.
Because someone said to me, "Don't do it. Get your agents to do it."
Yeah.
And so I went down to the Sound House and did a thing with Christopher Eccleston and Wendy Craig, and
wow,
a short story called Old Lang Syne, about 4 episodes set over 4 New Year's Eves that I thought was really good. I was a very small part in it, but maybe I've gone back and done others with various other exciting doctors. And
nice.
Who knows? I'm thinking of emailing actually saying, when are these coming out?
I've got that ready to listen to because I'm so behind with my Big Finish because I've been collecting them since they started in like 2003. But so many, like literally one half of my room is just full of Big Finish CDs.
Being a completist, I would have thought is impossible, but how there are any stories left, I really don't know. But
it's a nightmare.
I'd love to write for them. I was talking about an idea, and the director just said, well, why don't you write it then? So that felt like an open door to sort of have a go,
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
And I've mentioned various doctors I'd quite like to work with, probably more than once. Because like Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred, they were he was my doctor when I was, because that ended when I was 8. So that really got its sort of hooks in me.
Yeah.
I remember it being too scary. Like Curse of Fenric was too scary. Greatest Show in the Galaxy, that was too scary. Curse of Fenric's still my favourite Doctor Who story. But,
great story.
But really grabbed my imagination just before it got cancelled the first time. So yeah, to sort of work with, Sylvester McCoy would be unreal.
It just keeps going as well, doesn't it, Doctor Who? It's showing no signs of fading away. But then I suppose things like Star Trek and all of these things that were probably once thought quite frivolous sort of programs, they're huge concerns now.
It's an amazing story engine. And I think the genius of having the TV show and Big Finish is I think Big Finish taps into the nostalgia of how it used to be kind of thing. Yeah. And then the TV show is where they break new ground and you get Ncuti Gatwa, or, what they've done with it in the past few years is it's still new, it's still fresh. But then if you're of a certain age,
yes,
you can also listen to Tom Baker still being the Doctor, which is incredible.
Like me. Why do you think I'm more into the Big Finish, and I have been since it started? More so than when it came back, because I enjoy it. And don't get me wrong, I love the recent Doctors and things like that.
Yeah.
But for me, because I got into it around the sort of Peter Davison era.
Yeah, nostalgia is a huge part of the show.
Yeah, exactly. So it's for me, that's proper Doctor Who. Is that
Yeah, and they do certain. It can be. I don't know if Big Finish is more. I don't want to say basic, but there's less pressure on it to break new ground. So you get you just get very classically shaped stories and combinations of Paul McGann's done tons of great stuff on Big Finish. He's just a great Doctor, which I think as everyone knows, people begging for a TV show because he's just so good.
Yeah.
Whether I've worked with him or not, I couldn't possibly say. But he's fantastic. As is Christopher Eccleston, by the way. He's a right goofball. He's so funny. What a strange and funny man. He said, "I bet you thought I'd be intense, didn't you?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I'm not." He was right. "Oh, I've got to go by 2:00. Come on. 2 takes, really quick."
Wow.
It just drops into character, like, and he's great. His audios are really good. He's a really nice, welcoming guy. We were all it was set in the north, so we were down in Acton, but we were all northerners, so that was quite nice day. Yeah.
And have you been working on a film called Law as well, which I saw?
You've done your homework. Yes, I'm working on it today, in fact, because there are some spot sound effects that my producer has spotted is still me just saying the sound effect out loud. So I'm going to replace those this afternoon. Like, are we done? He's like, no. It's my voice going clang when someone hits a gong. So yeah, we should probably replace that. Yeah, that was a funny old business. So a few years ago, or 2020, I sort of felt like getting back into making short films again rather than sketches, because I did a PhD when I was a graphic art and design lecturer, which is a lifetime ago. But so I'd had short films and shown them in film festivals and done that kind of experience. And I thought, I want to make a short film rather than just a sketch, something a bit more narrative, a bit more emotional and with characters and things. So, and then weirdly, the next day I was contacted by Film Hub North, who were part of the BFI, to say, have you got any short films you want to pitch? So I had a meeting with them. One of them was pitching feature development for the temple, actually, now that I remember.
Ah, nice.
So I said, I've got 2 ideas, describe the temple. And she said, right, what's your other one?
Oh.
Okay. Well, the other one is, so it's a sort of a family comedy of manners thing about werewolves. There's a family with a werewolf in it. So that's called The Wilds. And I was writing that, and then the world locked down in March 21. So it sort of took ages to get done, and we scheduled it twice, and third time we had to postpone it because I got COVID, but we actually got it done like last year. So we've made a short film called The Wilds, which has done really well on the festival circuit. Yeah. It stars Nicola Bryant, who is Perry,
yeah. Nice,
who I think is now my friend, and she's great in it as the mum. But then so BFI knew this guy called Adam Boabda from Hartlepool who'd just done a proof of concept thing with werewolves in it. So they said, you should meet this producer. So then in the meantime, before we could get The Wilds done, he was making a horror anthology film, long answer, called Law. And it's an anthology, like 4 or 5 shorts, 4 shorts with a sort of an overarching thing.
Yeah. So
I had a small part in it, and then I wrote one and asked, who's directing it, by the way? And he said, oh, you are. So, ended up in running around a hotel in Hartlepool with Rufus Hound in his underpants and puppy handcuffs on. Because God bless Rufus Hound, I messaged him on Twitter, would you like to be in a horror film for 3 days? He just said yes, and just showed up.
Nice.
Excellent.
So Law is being finished now. And then we've got a short film called The Wilds, which I'm going to write a feature-length adaptation expansion of the next couple of months, because I'd like to make a feature if possible.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like music now, it's much easier to DIY this kind of thing in terms of technology and putting stuff out.
Yeah, there's loads of. I mean, I've edited them both myself. As I say, I use Final Cut, but having a producer is great, because I don't know like a big film crew, but he does. So he knows all the people. So it's like, hey, this is your first AD. This is a DOP you should talk to. Right. This is the costume department, and just put me in touch with this proper crew of people that I've never had before.
Yeah.
And we did for The Wilds. Actually, we got some of the music and sound design was by a guy called Andy Hardwick, who works for Big Finish.
Yes.
So full circle. I sort of said to him, basically, I want it to sound like it's a Big Finish thing. And he, again, people are just enthusiastic, and he said yes. And so, yeah, it's great to not be doing everything myself.
Yes, I can imagine. So finally then, as we wrap up, the other one I wanted to touch on, one of my favourites, is food farms.
Oh God, yeah.
My hit. How do you get all those? I mean, do you just cut all those packs up and throw them in and just pull through it out?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. It was it was a thing I did for my own amusement. So it's the farm foods catalog, which my neighbours now know to keep for me. Yeah, and just sort of you need two because you need one to cut up and one to stick to. So that's the trick. But yeah, just collaging them and it just really making me laugh. And my wife as well, just sitting and sort of doing that with. You've got to do it for real. That's the rule. So it's proper craft knife Pritt stick.
Right. Yeah.
And then I just took photos of them on my iPad and just sort of made it look like VHS. And so I think it's the simplest thing I've ever made. And it's the only thing I've made that's got like 300,000 views on Twitter. And that's my viral sensation is food farms. So I managed to do a trilogy of that. I did a Christmas one last year and then made too many of them. So there was like a January sale was the third one. And then I did buy a load of old recipe books this year and sort of had a look, but I don't know, you can't do something forever. It's a new injection of something. But yeah, it's just shouting all these ridiculous foods as fast and as loud as I can.
I mean, there's some great band names in there.
Yes. Yeah. We've had some great band names today. I keep thinking about Innsmouth Kebab.
Nice, yeah.
And you said Halloween Scrum at one point. I thought, the new Halloween Scrum, the new single from Innsmouth Kebab.
Nice.
That is, Halloween Scrum.
So yeah, little titles. When I used to write songs, I always had a little book in my pocket and I used to write down little 2 or 3 word phrases. But yeah, so the farm food thing's been great. I've done a poster of all of them on my Etsy shop and I've been selling the originals, so I've got them all framed, the sort of collage, little piece of internet history.
Nice.
So yeah, that's been lovely.
I was going to mention the Etsy shop as well. She got quite a lot of merch up on there.
Yeah, I did a big push before Christmas because my wife's a sort of self-publisher. She does zines and comics, and so she runs an Etsy. So she's my Etsy sort of guru who tells me how it all works. So I don't think I'd do it without her, but I love designing T-shirts and posters and. As I say, I did teach graphic art and design for 9 years, so that's right. Kind of where I learnt editing and Photoshop, and I love all and making props. And I know the actual writing is the hardest bit, but making the props and costumes is just a joy. I love it.
And if people want to get in touch with you, where's the best place to see your stuff? Obviously, the YouTube channel has got all those great films on it. Any other? Yeah,
online. Thank you. Yes, it has. Online, I'm generally called Greig A.R. Johnson. So it's Greig, Greg. A.R. stands for Alexander Ross, if you're curious. Johnson. So I'm on Twitter. My DMs are open if you want to say hi. And Instagram. And I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook, but let's let that fall. Let that fall by the wayside. Let Facebook die.
It seems to be, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm not on Twitter a lot these days because it doesn't fill my heart with joy or anything. But no, it's led to meeting lots of lovely people, and so Twitter's led to lots of lovely career things for me. So I still bless the existence of Twitter. But say hi. And I think my Etsy shop is just Google my name, Greig Johnson, but Greg with an I in it. And come and say hi. Yeah, there's shenanigan T-shirts, Woody Brown T-shirts.
Marvelous.
Get a certificate saying you've got grade 1 playing your shenanigan. Your name on it.
I was thinking about this shenanigan. Do you remember the M.R. James Ghost Story for Christmas of Lost Hearts? They had the creepy little kid with the hurdy-gurdy.
Little kids.
Yeah. There you go. You could turn up with the shenanigan.
And blast him out of the water. Yeah.
I have a word with Mark Gatiss. Perhaps next year that'll be the adaptation.
There you go. Yeah, he's found a nice little niche there, hasn't he?
Yes.
He's going to run out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they move on from M.R. James because there's only so many M.R.Js you can do, I suppose. I mean, if you did like Man Sizing Marble and some of those stories.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, actually.
Yeah, I thought ironically this year's Inside Number 9 Christmas special was very M.R. Jamesy.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
And it's not for me to say which I thought was better.
Well, yes. debate rages on the MRJ groups. It gets quite heated at times.
It's hilarious. I keep dipping in and out just for a little bit of a laugh every now and then. Some people taking it incredibly seriously, like it's a personal affront to them.
Yeah.
It's just like, ooh, calm down.
But I did say to my wife, who watched it with me, fairly patiently, but agreed to watch it. I did say the thing I said earlier about the trouble with M.R. James is generally it's a quite sort of dry academic guy who's usually alone, so they don't make for massively emotional or involving stories.
Yeah,
they're that's not Mark Gatiss' fault.
Well, no,
It's just
no, they're not easy.
that's the story. My young nephews did watch the Mezzo Tint the other day, and they liked it, so that was nice.
Yeah.
It's there, 14 and 16, so they were like, oh, that the painting that moves when you're not the etching that moves when you're not looking at it. That's a good idea. So it's great.
I think maybe there is that as well. When we watched the old ghost stories for Christmas, we were all that age.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's that much scarier when you're that age. Perhaps it's a bit rose tinted kind of spectacles or something. Looking back, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's definitely not. Oh, the 70s ones are better and the new ones aren't. And I love the old Whistle and I'll Come to You, the Michael Hawley one.
Oh yeah,
but it's it's pretty slow. It's not. It's not Avengers Endgame.
No.
you got to turn your adrenaline down a bit and just go with the flow.
This is what me and Rob we were talking about the other day, wasn't it? About like nowadays you have to have like 18 cuts per minute or something.
Yeah,
it's all like bang, 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 and it gets disorientated after a while. I had to stop watching Avengers Endgame and pull up Wikipedia so I knew what the hell was going on.
Yeah, it's too much information delivered too quickly.
Yeah. I just couldn't. It just wasn't soaking in. I was just like, I have no idea what's happening now. I pause it a minute.
Yeah, who's who?
Yeah.
It's all part of the attention span thing. The attack on the attention span.
Yeah, whittled down. TikTok.
Right. Well, we're going to have to make a move soon because night is falling in Innsmouth. The bus has turned up outside, and as we always say, no one wants to get left behind in Innsmouth.
Don't miss that bus. Except
for Greg, of course, who gets to stay in the room overnight. But he did bring his own bolt. Yeah. And I suspect that's the shenanigans you got in the case there as well.
Yeah, so that sees them off if they come to my door. There's a frequency only they can hear, which makes their gills bleed.
Nice. You could go take it out on the streets and get Zadok Allen to join you for a bit of a sing song later. That'll get rid of him.
Yeah, I'm sure he's immune to effects.
Now, New Year is traditionally a time when people think about fitness and start joining gyms and that kind of malarkey. As you see, Tim has already got his training underway with that huge, bulky object he dragged all the way up the stairs here. So,
indeed,
Tim, do you think it's...
I think it's time. I'm going to move out. Let me heft it onto the bed. Here we go. It's Dagon's sack.
Dagon's sack.
My word. Greg, as our honoured guest, would you like to have a delve in Dagon's sack and pull out a missive for us?
Oh, I certainly would. Let's see. Here's one.
Oh, lovely. So, we've got a letter from Nat73 in Florida, and Nat asks the rather disturbing question: if you could date any of the great old ones, which would it be, and where would you go? There's something to ponder. Tim, do you want to have a crack at that?
Yeah, all right. I'm going to go with Shubby. I'd probably date Shubna Gruff, and I'd take her to a petting zoo. Black goat of the woods, get a handful of feed, she'll be putty in my hands.
Putty in your hand.
Yeah.
You'd be putty in hers. Does a Shoggoth count as a great old one?
Yeah, I think so.
Not really.
Well.
Maybe Nyarlathotep Hotep.
Nice.
With his powers, and I think I'd let him choose the venue.
That's probably
because I don't want to take him to a Pizza Express or something. I want you take me somewhere I don't even understand, somewhere non-Euclidean.
Yeah, non-Euclidean restaurant. Oh, now there you go. Yeah. That's an idea.
So even once after the date, you can't really describe where you went or what you ate. I want some non-Euclidean dough balls for two when. That'd be quite romantic.
That does sound like Pizza Express in Slough, so seems to have an effect on the memory, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go slightly left field. I'm going to go for Nug and Yeb.
Ooh,
because twins,
kinky.
And I thought we could sit at the Lake of Harley and watch the twin suns set over the lake in Carcosa. I thought it'd be quite romantic.
Nice. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a forward-thinking throuple.
Yeah.
A son each, taking twins to see twin son. I mean, it's slightly cheesy, but I'm sure it'll work.
Yeah, you
It'll
need
work.
that Hallmark movie music in the background, wouldn't you? You know, all the swelling brass and all that.
Yeah.
There'll definitely be a bit of swelling, I think. Yeah. So.
You've thought too much about this, mate.
I have. Yeah.
That's why I wanted a Shoggoth, is the shape-shifting possibilities. But
there you go.
Hentai all round.
Many limbs as you could possibly require.
All right. Well, I think on that note, we'll call proceedings to a
A
close.
horrible note to end on.
It is. Thanks ever so much, Greg, for coming in. Real pleasure to see you.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for asking.
And what have we got next time, Tim? We've got a patron special next time, I think.
Yeah, next time is going to be a patron special, and we'll be discussing H.P. Lovecraft's History of the Necronomicon. So that should be interesting.
Yes, that's an essay that Lovecraft wrote about the history of the book, so we'll be delving into that for our patrons. If you want to get access to that, then if you visit our Patreon site, it will tell you how to sign up. You get access to bonus content, not only for the Innsmouth Book Club, but also for Strange Shadows, our Clark Ashton Smith podcast, and you get a monthly copy of Innsmouth News and various other bits and pieces as well. So, there we go. That's it for this time. Thanks for joining us. 2023 in Innsmouth. We're looking forward to the Innsmouthian year ahead. Thanks once again to Greg for coming in. And with that, it's goodbye from me, Rob Poynton.
And it's goodbye from me, Tim Mendes.
Me, Greg Johnson.